There's an announcement before the talk, again about the balance chair, which usually sits on this spot here. I only use it the round before a talk, and very briefly at the beginning of each sitting period, which has meetings. All the other times the chair is unoccupied. Anyone who would like to sit on it, just come to this particular place here and sit on it for a round or however long you wish. This is day 1 of the February 88 7-day retreat. There are quite a number of people who haven't been to retreat here today. So we will say some things about listening to a talk. What we usually bring up in a talk, and our relationship in talking and listening to each other during a talk. These are not crucial things just for people who haven't been here, but for all of us to look at freshly. The intellect so often feels clear about something, but what is important is that one sees something directly, that something is seen to be so. That's why it never hurts to say things freshly, because then maybe we can listen freshly. Often people tell me that particularly during the first talks there's great tiredness, fatigue. It's difficult to listen to the talk because the mind drops off into dozing or just becomes inattentive for large gaps or small gaps. So is it possible for people who wish to come and listen to a talk to take a rest maybe before the talk, before the round of sitting, after the work period? Take a rest, maybe drop off to sleep and awake refreshed. Because listening to a talk is it's energy, the energy of attention. And this energy gets refurbished when there is a deep rest, sleep. The nervous system relaxes, is not bombarded with thoughts and input. The body can relax. Most people, many people may not have slept much last night. Usually one doesn't sleep much in a new place for the first time or with the beginning of a retreat. Many people have done a lot of preparations either in this building for retreat or at home to come here, taking care of children, work, husbands or wives or whoever one is living with. So there sets in sort of an after exhaustion. One can't sleep much. So take rest during the day and don't worry too much about not having had sleep. It is that worry about it which takes more energy than the fact that the body hasn't had rest as usual. Energy to wake up and listen and be there can come at any time. And it doesn't depend on whether one has slept the night before or not. So not to be too concerned about the whole sleeping or not sleeping syndrome. And yet to take intelligent care. If one knows one gets sleep at a certain time, then there's time provided to rest. Do it, not make a problem out of it. Also, some people have already brought chairs in. Please sit as comfortably as you can during a talk, so the body is as little strained or pained as possible. When there's strain or pain in the body, that draws energy. And that energy is not available for a free listening, which happens so much easier when the body is at ease. So bring whatever cushions or chairs you need to make yourself comfortable for this talk. If in sitting, particularly on the floor, you need to change your posture at a certain time, a leg falls asleep or whatever, then do so. It's not the same as when we're sitting our rounds here. It's all right to pull a leg out from under and put it on the other side or whatever. And can it happen quietly, not with a great to-do? We talked about that last night. It's an amazing thing that when attention is there, noise reveals itself and can diminish on its own, just in the light of attention. And yet there are always some unavoidable and natural sounds connected with movement, not to worry about those. With simple movement, so much of the time we move excessively, unnecessarily, more than is called for, because there's not awareness. About what is said in a talk, you will find that a lot of the topics come out of the very questions that are asked in meetings. It's the most fruitful way of questioning and looking together, to use questions that have come up in our minds during a retreat, or one may have brought them in from before or remembers a question, but to use questions which are here and alive in us, and to carry them as far as we can go with a question, together and alone. So if you find that a question that you've asked crops up in a talk, not to feel that a discretion has been violated. Very often it is not the very same question. Other people may have asked the same one, and a synthesis has happened out of several similar questions. Besides, I do not remember verbatim what we say in meetings, so I cannot repeat it verbatim. So if you have asked the question slightly differently, it doesn't mean you have been misunderstood or misquoted. When we bring up a question or make comments on it or question further and look at things, state things, this is never meant to be accepted by anyone as being the truth, which has to be remembered, incorporated into one's body of knowledge, to be repeated to oneself or others. Whatever we talk about here is for looking at directly, immediately, if possible, to look immediately. As one is listening to the words, can the mind and body open up, be transparent, as it were, so that one can look for oneself what it is that is being talked about. So not just follow the words, and maybe the words are logically stated, clearly put, and one can clearly understand intellectually what is being said, but we're wondering about something much deeper, whether one can see in oneself, as one looks at what is going on right now, or as one looks at the memory of something that happened, looking at it, not being driven by the memory, but looking at it, whether this is really so. And then, if this takes place, both of us looking, because in talking there's also looking at something, and in listening, can there also be looking at something, so that we're in direct and immediate communication with each other. Not one person imparting something to another to be received and believed in, accepted or rejected. Can we be in direct communication with each other? Because both of us are questioning the same thing, are listening and looking at the same time. If this state comes into being, where we look, question, and listen at the same time, at the same thing, then there is no gradation in this relationship, one being felt to be the teacher, the others being felt to be students. These categories seem to be so irrelevant then. They don't apply. And they bring a lot of mischief with them. Because then there's immediately a concept of who this person is who's listening, who that person is who's talking. And these conceptualizations about ourselves and each other prevent this immediacy of communication. For we're both on the same level, looking, listening, wondering, attending, questioning further, leaving things open, not knowing. Then where is there a difference between us of whatever the mind so eagerly fabricates between us? I'm more this, you're less that, and so forth. And this endless division that we human beings engage in through thinking about each other and ourselves with labels and categories and ideas. So what is said here is not said to influence, convince people of something. It has not come from a feeling of authority. There is no such feeling. It comes from looking and wondering together. And if in listening one doesn't understand or doesn't see it that way, then please bring it up in the meeting and we'll look at it freshly, anew. Maybe we won't remember exactly what we said, but we can always start something fresh, like a new fallen snow. So don't feel in any ways compelled either to accept or to stay mum, not to say anything. It's appreciated when you take apart or wonder about it. Don't accept it. Say, this isn't so, I see it differently. Then there is some energy in the inquiry together. Maybe we'll bring the thing up again in a talk. Sometimes people are apologetic. They say, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to hurt you, so you don't hurt me. I welcome this kind of dialoguing. And not to to feel that one has to accept something or not be influenced. That's what happens to us all the time. This is how we've been brought up and how we've come to be what we are, by influence and being convinced and being persuaded and coaxed and admonished and threatened that if we don't accept, then we won't get any place. So, a place like this, or an occasion of a retreat, is for seeing if there can be a new relationship among ourselves, not a repetition and reinforcement of old relationships of authority and influence and power and subjection or rebellion. Rather to meet together and look at something in a non-threatening, non-violent way. Which doesn't mean that if you feel some anger about something that's being said, that has to be suppressed. Look at it. Don't suppress it. We can look at it together if it's still there when the thing comes up in a meeting. There's nothing to be suppressed, but to be seen and looked at and wondered about and be in touch with. So all these kinks and knots and pressures that this body bears from all of our suppressions and repressions and inner conflicts can loosen, maybe open up and unwind in the light of no resistance against whatever is there. A gentleness of asking, what is this? And then listening. Not just with the ears. When we talk about listening, it's not just acoustic listening. It's the whole body open in listening, feeling, sensing, seeing inwardly and outwardly. The senses being one whole, not divided by, I know this and I don't like that. One person said, it is so hard for me to keep a continuous meditation practice. It's so hard for me to keep a continuous meditation practice going. And the implied question, what do I do about that? Or do you have any advice? Before we can give any answers to any questions, we have to look where our questions come from and what we mean by the words that we're using. not just understand the meaning of the words like one looks it up in a dictionary and gets some other words which cover the word one is using, but to see what a word actually means in my direct perception of what I'm doing. And we're not used to that. We're very used to using words on their own level and conversing with each other and with ourselves, using words and influencing ourselves by the words we are using without ever really wondering, what do these words really refer to? Factually, in my daily life. So let's first look, where does a question come from? I seem unable, or it is so difficult to keep a continuous meditation practice. What am I to do about it? Can you help? In that there is, isn't there, wanting a continuous meditation practice and feeling unable to come up with it or to carry it on. The question already comes out of a conflict with what is and what should be. Do you see that? What I've been told in the past, read in books, heard from others, there is such a thing as a continuous meditation practice, but it doesn't work for me. I have problems with it. But I should be able to do that. I'm not coming up to standard. And from that comparison and evaluation of oneself come certain feelings of inferiority or discouragement, which are orchestrated by the whole physical organism. If we feel discouraged about ourselves, certain muscles, chemicals, organs go into activity. And then we say, I don't feel so buoyant, as I did yesterday or a year ago. Is that clear? That if we say, I don't seem to be able to do such and such a thing, we think that I should be able to do such and such a thing. And that's where the stress lies, on what I should be able to do. The emphasis is not, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that's actually going on? The emphasis and stress is, what is it that should be going on? Which is one of the main conflicts of our life. Being occupied and preoccupied with what should be going on at the expense of a simple, clear awareness of what is going on, without the impact of the comparison. The comparison of what should be going on makes it impossible to see clearly what is going on. It's very important. Can one verify that for oneself? That comparison with what should be going on makes it impossible to see clearly and simply, unimpededly, what actually is going on. In this case, the person concerned is concerned with not being able to carry on a continuous meditation practice. What is a meditation practice? Many people here have probably meditation practices assigned by previous teachers or present teachers. counting the breathing from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. Or focusing the attention, the awareness on the incoming and outgoing breath. It's a very frequently assigned practice. Merging, as it's sometimes said, merging the awareness with the incoming and outgoing breath, concentrating on it. Or there may be a koan or mantram that one is questioning or visualizing or repeating in the mind, also putting at a certain place in the body, between the eyes, the tip of the nose, or maybe the lower abdomen. These are meditation practices that one has been assigned to do, and then one is practicing to be able to do well, which means as uninterrupted as possible, as undistractedly as possible. Let us look broader than just the meditation practice as we just did, and ask, why is one doing that? Why is one engaged in this assigned practice, or a practice one has taken up from a book, from reading it? One may not have a teacher who has assigned it. Why is one engaging in that? Has one been told or promised that by doing this and perfecting it to a certain extent, one will acquire something? We talked about that last night. Always wanting to get something, to feel better, healthier, more wholesome, happier, better. In this process of doing something in order to attain something else, there's always the involvement of me, what I want for myself, to be a better person. And that thought is involved, the thought of a state that I may attain if I practice what I've been told or what I've read. The idea of a state of tranquility or enlightenment. Or maybe recapturing an experience one had in the past when one was practicing, and maybe suddenly there was a lot of energy or falling away of feelings of limitation. And that experience now having become a memory, one wants to get back, and that's why one practices. Is that so? Please look at it for yourself. Why does one engage in a practice? What are the motives? And what is involved in wanting something? See that there are thoughts involved of what it is one wants. Something projected into the future, which is the process of thinking. There can't be any future unless we think about it. There's only what's happening now, but we can think that tomorrow or in a year or in another lifetime of practicing continuously, I will become enlightened, achieve nirvana or salvation for myself. Do you see that there are thought processes involved in this? And that these thought processes come from a feeling of me not satisfied now, me feeling lack or want, and the projection of a me which will not feel that lack or want, or has in the past been without that lack or want for a moment, and wants that back. Look at it, so what we're doing is clear to us, transparent. not accept these words as being so, but verify for oneself. So, striving toward a conceptualized or imagined desired state, one has intended or has decided to engage in a practice. And maybe this practice of counting or attending to the breathing or fixing the attention on a mantra or a koan has brought some immediate results. The mind quiets down, maybe the blood pressure goes down, there's some feeling of energy at times, there's sort of an instant reward which reinforces going on with the practice. But then the other side is one is not able to concentrate, the mind is distracted, one thinks of anything but the breath or the koan, things that upset one yesterday or today, or just the dreaminess of the mind, imagining nice, pleasurable things of the past or future. And then a moment of awareness one has not continued with a meditation practice. And then the thought and worry, why can't I do this? Why is this so hard? I should be able to do that. We started out with that, looking at the conflict of that, what one should be doing, and not just opening up to what is really going on. The struggle of keeping the mind focused. The conflict with the distractions. I shouldn't be thinking of that. I shouldn't be feeling this emotion right now because this interrupts my meditation practice. And the conflicts resulting in a physical imbalance, the organism responding to the conflict. I wonder if we can ask right now why we need any specific meditation practice. When the world, this inward world of wanting, emoting, conflicting, resisting, discouragement or elation is so vast, it comprises all human beings. Why can't one look at that and be in touch with that as it arises? Not as a practice, it's there. It doesn't have to be dragged up, it's there. We try to push it away, detour around it, pretend it's not there. Why can't each moment of wanting and lacking and wishing and comparing, and the feelings that result from that, why can't that be, if you wish to use the word, the meditation practice? Leave practice out. Because it can't be practiced, it can only be done, to look at it, to be in touch with it, without straying into the future when it hopefully will be better, or thoughts bringing up the past, where it was better once or where it was more miserable. Can one be neither limping behind nor racing ahead and just be with what's there? completely. The thoughts that come up, the conflicts that they bring, and the emotions that result. This instant. And not want anything of it, just see it. Listen to it. Without spinning any theories about it or any speculation how it will end, what it will be like. We don't know. What is it like? Not what will it be like. What is this instant? When I have no desire to get away from it, to attain something else. When that itself is seen as a movement of thought, away from what is there, underfoot, under the nose, in the hands. Maybe there is a moment where there's just what is. Biting into an apple, or walking in the crunching snow, or just sitting without for a moment any dreams about what should be or what was. And then thought says, this was nice. Can this continue? How did I do that? How did I bring that about? I did such and such. Maybe if I practice that, this will come again. That's thought. Thought does that. And we rely on thought to be correct, but it may be not correct. Whatever we have done before or practice after may have nothing to do with a moment of insight in which there is no projecting the future or bringing up the past, in which there is just this, as clearly as can be. So can there be quick awareness of what thought does when a moment like this becomes a memory? And not fall for these habitual thoughts of, I want it again, what can I do to get it? But to see that this very movement of thought with its emotions and feelings is already the division and the conflict. At that moment, one isn't looking, one is thinking now, machinations. If that is seen, it doesn't have to continue. Thought does not have to manipulate. It can be seen for what it is and end. And there's seeing. And then what's there? What's there is what's there. Nothing extraordinary, but what's there? Sitting, eating, walking, washing a dish, lying down, just lying down, getting down on the mattress. One is already thinking, I hope I'll be able to sleep, or I hope she will be quiet, or whatever occupies the screen, this inward screen of the computer, which is the brain. And therefore not the immediacy of feeling, getting down on the mattress, stretching out, pulling up a blanket. Maybe a certain achy feeling in the limbs or the relaxation of the muscles as the legs stretch out. It's nothing extraordinary, but it's all there is. Together with sounds of a door or an airplane flying over or a wind rattling the woodwork. If one is attached to a meditation practice, then in such a moment, thought will say, you got to practice now. Follow your inhalations, count your exhalations. And then the vastness of attention narrows down to a small track of concentration with its conflicts with the distractions, with what shouldn't be and what was or could be. Do you see that? Try, work with it. Experiment with it, investigate it. It's amazing to find that the breath does not need to be counted. It does not need to become a meditation practice to be fully felt, listened to, seen inwardly. Because it's there. The vital movement of this organism. It doesn't have to be made into anything. It can just be listened to, like the wind in the trees, or the footsteps, or someone coughing. And if it doesn't need to be held on to as a practice, it doesn't need to become a conflict with whatever else is going on, because the mind is open, just listening, without wanting to be continuous or better or advancing or progressing. It's just open to what is right now. Can one listen in such a way? Not wanting or expecting something? It may almost be impossible for the mind not to want or to expect something. But can that wanting something or expecting something be felt in itself as a movement of the mind and body? Then it has its place along with the breathing and the sounds around one and inside one. It's just one of the things that's going on, but one isn't trapped in it. If it's seen to be so, I was just thinking of what should happen, I expecting this and that. Then it's not a problem to sit with a state of a knot in the chest or in the abdomen, a feeling of numbness or closed upness, feeling of discouragement or low energy, because it needs not to be compared with any other state. It doesn't even need to be labeled and known as low energy or knot or pain. Because if we use those words, we're concerned with the words and their associations and not with the actual happening. What is a knot in the chest or in the stomach if we don't call it that? If we don't bring all of our past memories to it, but say, all right, what is this right now? I've never approached it without any knowledge, without any methods to get rid of it, without any techniques to solve it. Just what is it, without, empty-handed. No practice, just what is it? And then listening, not making what is it into a practice. What is it? What is it? What is it? That has a soothing effect. And the soothing effect on the brain of repeating something is an instant reward. So one becomes attached to the practice, but one doesn't understand what's going on in the brain. And one doesn't understand the anxiety out of which we want a soothing practice. So if anxiety is there, what is it? And then, no question, just listening. Every pore of the body open. What is it? Listening. Which means no protecting oneself from pain or untowardness, which is expected. It may not be there, but it's expected. Because we've never met anxiety directly. Or we run away from it, resisted it, put a practice out of it, over it. But what is it in its actual way? I have to listen, don't I? I have to not worry about what it may turn out to be. I have to not know. And therefore there's just that now. I won't call it anxiety. I won't hope for its ending. I just wonder what it is. And then be quiet. Not concentrate on it, because then I'm in conflict with something that distracts me from it. The other sounds, inward and outward, they have room. There's space for this whole universe to take place, which it is. It's all taking place right now. Only thought moves away. Everything else is just there as it is. So can one detect subtle resistances and let go of them? Because one resists something one doesn't know. There's no reason to resist when one doesn't know something. Let's find out what it is. If we don't resist and protect something which is idea, me. If one begins to live like this, with opening up to whatever is going on inside and out, then one will not make this stark division anymore between meditation practice and one's daily life. And this irreconcilable division, which happens when we practice something and then get up and face the difficult world, which we have found so many ways to escape from or to battle, rather than to see, to be in touch with, to understand, to have insight into. Then the listening while sitting is no different from the listening while walking or working. Or relating with husband, wife, co-workers. Someone standing in a line in a supermarket, why can't one listen to? Standing in the line, maybe a long line, there's impatience in oneself. Can one listen to that? Not say, I got to get through here, I want to get home to my cushion to meditate. I'm running out of time. Can there be sitting while standing, listening while walking or talking, even talking? Hear oneself, hear the sound of one's voice and all the emotions that go into what one wants to get or what one fights or resists. And opening up instantly. We will end here for today.